Hey everyone, today I'll be ranking every LEGO Star Wars diorama ever. So far, that's only 6 of them, but there have been some really good ones released, like the Emperor's Throne Room. And just recently, we got our first prequel diorama, which is the Mos Espa Pod Racing set. This line of sets offers something totally new to LEGO Star Wars, and I'm all here for it. I've loved what they've done so far, and so now I want to go and rank all 6 of them from worst to best. Starting at the bottom, I have the Death Star Trash Compactor diorama. The trash compactor has its place in this line of sets, but it just doesn't lend itself very well to the format. Accuracy wise, the build is great though, and there are absolutely no complaints I have. It even can compress like in the movies, which is a fun little moving feature, even if this isn't a playset. Around the back, you even have R2D2 and C3PO trying to open the door. Another fun little detail that LEGO's kinda known for including. They really thought of everything for this one, and they did an amazing job with it. I really love all these extra features because even though they're not necessary, it adds the LEGO charm and why LEGO is so popular. All this can be said about the minifigures as well. You get quite a few of them and they all look fantastic. Not to mention it's our main crew of Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, R2, and C3PO. You couldn't really ask for much more. So why is this set last on the list then? Well, first of all the dioramas I think are actually pretty good. But the main reason this one's at the bottom is just because of the shape of the build. It doesn't really work all that well for a diorama. From a side profile, you can't really see anything around it, and the sides are a little rough. Around the back is also super bland, not that you'll be really seeing that, but it also just doesn't help it. It's not a huge deal, but it does limit this set in ways the other dioramas don't have. You really have to be looking at the set from straight on, otherwise you're getting just a lot of flat bricks from the outside look. While there was really no way around this, it just created these limitations that make it the weakest in the series, even though it is still a pretty good set. Just above that, number 5, we have the Mos Espa Pod Race diorama. This set isn't quite what I expected, but it definitely does its job. You have your two pod racers right up front and center, racing through the deserty Tatooine landscape. And that desert planet is represented pretty well. The arch in particular gives it a lot of life and gives it some much needed depth to the build, as otherwise it'd be pretty plain with a flat floor and just a backdrop. Still, however, even with all this, it is just a tad plain and it could use a little improvement. Those two pod racers though are the centerpieces and they did nail that part. They're in a micro scale and they're two wonderful builds. All the details they were able to capture in this super small scale is really astounding and impressive. They're not very big, so sometimes people don't always give them the credit they deserve, but building in such a small scale has a challenge in and of itself, and something these designers should still be commended for. Some of the creativity they used with these small pieces is just amazing and easily my favorite part of this set. So, all in all, not bad by any means. However, this line of sets holds a lot of strong builds, leading to its lower place on my list. Fourth is taken by the Indoor Speeder Chase diorama. This set has a lot to love. From a faraway look, it's just very interesting. There's a lot going on between the trees, the speeders, and just all the vegetation this planet houses. All this can be combined with the Speeder Chase, which was a very fun choice for a set. It lends itself extremely well to this diorama build. The greenery also just separates it from all the other dioramas, which take on some more monotone colors. The main point of this set though is the speeders, and they did a fantastic job with them. They look gorgeous. Similarly to the pod racers that I just talked about, in a small scale it can be really hard to build, but these speeders are phenomenal. They may be small, but they are perfectly in minifigure scale, and they look perfect. I am a sucker for minifigure scale, so that's another reason I love these so much. Riding those speeders though, we also have some great minifigures. They are really great. Indoor Luke and Leia are solid and have some very nice camo prints. I love seeing them in these different outfits that we normally don't see as often. Then you have that third figure, the Scout Trooper, which is also in the set and looks as good as ever. And in the end, what you get here is a very complete set with so many nice things to say about it. It all works together very nicely, and I do like this diorama quite a bit because it's one of the few that gives us that outdoor feel. It's hard to describe, but this diorama has a little bit more of a grand feel to it that the others below it just didn't quite have. which is probably somewhat brought on from all the detail included in this mock, with the trees, the speeders, and all the above. Next up, in third place, I have the Death Star Trench Run. This is a bit of a different idea, but it's a very neat one. Space battles are one of the biggest parts of Star Wars and why so many of us love the series. So them being able to capture one here in a diorama was a perfect idea. And while at first you might be thinking the trench build is a little bland, LEGO did their best to spice it up. The amount of greebling this build has is insane, and it ends up working quite well. There's only so much you can do to a gray slab, and LEGO tried their best, and I think they ended up with a good product. Not to mention, this is accurate to the Death Star Trench Run, so you can't really dwell on this too much. The starships, of course, are the main feature of this set though, and what you're going to be looking at. They are extremely small, but they all look good, and together it works very well as a display piece. And even though you might be looking at the set thinking it's a little plain, I for one feel it's a lot better than the sum of its parts. A lot of the success of these dioramas are hinged upon the actual scene they're based on. For example, this one, the trench run from the original Star Wars movie. This film is notorious in cinema history, and so is this scene. And it makes for a terrific diorama as well, even though if you just judge it as a LEGO build, it might not be all that complex or interesting. That is not the point of these dioramas, and accuracy is, and for that this one gets an A+, as well as showing us an amazing scene from the movies. Just ahead of that, in the runner-up spot, we have the Emperor's Throne Room diorama. Right away, I have to say we need more dual sets. This diorama is absolutely amazing. This is the only one so far, but LEGO nailed it perfectly. I want to start by talking about this structure, because at first, the Emperor's Throne Room, you kind of think about it, and it's really just a gray room with some steps. There's not a whole lot to it. However, LEGO is perfectly able to scale it down into this small rectangular area. They nailed the look of the throne room in every way. It's a very smooth and polished build with an absolutely beautiful structure to look at. Specifically, that window behind the Emperor, it was handled perfectly, and all the techniques used in this build are so interesting. The way they get everything to curve together perfectly is just magic. The arch above is quite spectacular as well, and it definitely helps this diorama stand out from any of the others. It gives it its own profile that you can easily tell what it is from farther away. The only thing you can ridicule this set for is there is a lot of gray, but again, like with all these sets, that's accurate and there's not much you can do to spice it up. However, LEGO did still find a way, as those front control board things break it up, give us some blue, also the Emperor's chair, but the biggest thing is playing with the minifigures throughout is what really livens up this build, and is all you need. The three figures you get, of course, are the Emperor, Darth Vader, and Luke, which of course all have the LEGO quality and are fantastic looking characters. It feels like a real A+ lineup, and they fit in there so perfectly, and it makes the scene. Not to mention you can set them up in so many different ways, it gives you so many options, and if you wanted to play around with it, you could quite literally just create the entire end duel in this little area. This is a very sound and solid set that I think has everything it needed accounted for. And I think the designers deserve some extra credit for that back window in what could have just been a bland, boring throne room with a bunch of gray pieces everywhere. Finally though, we can get to the top spot and talk about my number one pick, and that is the Dagobah Jedi Training diorama. This one is so deserving and is the best diorama because it's a build that's super dynamic and has so much going on. For starters, what'll get your attention right away is the small X-Wing wing poking out of the water, calling back to when Yoda has to lift Luke's X-Wing out of the swamp. Plus you got this dirty, messy R2 and Yoda on shore ready to train. Another neat little detail is there's even a small interior for Yoda's hut, which wasn't necessary at all, and it's super small, but it's still a nice touch. I love seeing LEGO go the extra mile, especially when they didn't have to. The biggest part of this set though is all the trees and vegetations around Yoda's hut. It makes it feel like an actual swamp, like we're on Dagobah. All these details come together to recreate the iconic scenes in The Empire Strikes Back. I love this scene, and as such the diorama is made that much more impactful. They did a tremendous job, and I think it was a perfect choice and execution for a diorama. One thing I haven't mentioned about these sets though yet is the little plaques on front that give you the quote. All of them on the front have a quote from the scene that's being represented. This one in particular, I feel like that matters more than any of them. They have the classic Yoda's do or do not, there's no try. They have it right on the front there, and it brings all the magic of the scene to this one little Lego set. This is what I think shows why the dioramas are so great, also. They give you the ability to create the entire scene from the movie and display it right on your own shelf. That's what makes these sets so special. That's part of the reason I love the diorama line, though, and can't wait to see what else comes from the series. Unfortunately, it appears we won't see any new ones in 2025, which is fine, but hopefully we get some more in 2026, at least a few new ones. LEGO has skipped years for sub-themes like the helmet line before, so it wouldn't be on a character. I do stick by my pick though of Dagobah Jedi Training at the top of the list. If you disagreed with that pick or any of my others, let me know in the comments below. Also, feel free to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.